Our week in the Amazon was spent chasing down giant peacock bass on the Jorabashi River. Now, the Jorabashi River is a tributary of the Rio Negro that twists and turns its way south about 200 plus miles. And the Rio Negro is a 1,400 mile long river, and it's a tributary of the Amazon River, which is 4,300 miles. It's a lot of water. To put that into perspective, the United States is about 2,600 miles wide. Not even close to as long as the Amazon River. And the St. Johns River, which is one of the largest rivers in all Florida, only travels 310 miles. Before the trip even started, Scott and I had talked about what our expectations for this trip were going to be. And I said, I just want to come down and experience the culture and have a good time. But to be honest, I had some very specific numbers in my mind. To catch a double-digit fish would be adequate. Now to catch a 15-pounder or more would be the goal, and a fish over 20, I just would be absolutely floored. Our expectations were set. Now these need to be put into action. The Jorabashi River. I think a more appropriate name would be the Jorabashi Wetlands. At the time we fished this river, the water level was up more than 5 feet. Where there once was a defined sandbank that you may have seen a caiman laying out on, or maybe a villager's jungle camp composed of a wooden lean-to and an improvised grill, was just water. And a lot of it. In your mind, you think of these rivers as giant winding waterways with beautiful defined edges and giant sandy beaches that lead up into a massive rainforest with wildlife exploding out of every corner. But instead, we were confronted with water that covered the banks entirely and seeped hundreds of yards deep into the rainforest. The river, I imagined beforehand, now resembled something much more closer to a marsh than a river. Now, this wasn't necessarily a horrible thing. The raised water level disperses the fish across a vast area of jungle instead of them being concentrated in the winding river system. Now, this made fishing a bit tougher, but it led to some incredible moments of exploration that may not have happened if the water level was lower. All it meant really was that we'd have to work a bit harder to catch fish. Throughout the whole entire week, Scott and I were really committing to tackling into a true trophy peacock bass, throwing these giant choppers. This lure is big and loud and very cumbersome to throw. And damn, did it draw some serious reactions.
Oh my god! Holy! Oh my god!
But only one trophy-sized fish ever came on the chopper, and it was a 12-pounder that Scott had caught. A good fish, but not the one that we're looking for. We were 6 days into the trip, and I still hadn't caught a double digit. While the majority of the boat was connecting with some serious fish, there had been a 22, a 19, multiple 18-pounders, a 16-pounder, a 13, and several 12-pounders, and more single-digit fish than you could count. I hadn't caught a double digit yet. Now, don't get me wrong. I was still elated with how the trip was going for me. I'd caught one of the biggest butterfly peacocks that the guides had ever seen. Some of the craziest topwater blowups of all time. I caught multiple arowana and wolffish on a frog, which honestly is one of the coolest fishing moments ever for me. But finally, 6 days in, the possibility that I might not catch a double digit this trip was starting to creep up into the back of my head. Missed blowups and missed opportunities suddenly weren't as novel and exciting anymore as they were the first day. They became frustrating and left me feeling desperate for another chance instead of excited for another chance. Now, Scott and I have become really great friends over the past 2 years, traveling to some incredible places together and fishing at home in Florida fairly often. But you spend 12 hours a day for a whole entire week inside of a John boat, it's an easy place for frustration to rise.
Oh God, I just got broken.
You break it.
No, it broke it off.
Okay.
I literally went like this and swing on it.
That was the swing.
You're acting like I did a Bassmaster hook sit on it. I literally, he hit it and I went.
We'd never dwell on it for more than a minute and then be back to joking around.
A 3-pounder, ha 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 ha.
Could have been a little more gentle, Lawson.
With what?
Come on. Oh, he's biting my pants, Lawson. Are you kidding me?
But as time left for the double digit continued to count down, our frustrations only increased. Throughout the week, we cycled through a handful of lures, but one slowly rose to the top, the sub-walk. For the group, it had now produced a 19, multiple 18s, a 16, 13, and some 12s. It was what was really catching the majority of the big fish this trip. So, the plan was simple. Go out, throw sub-walk until we cross paths with a giant. We casted sub-walks all morning, with the occasional hookup of a butterfly, some small speckled peas, the occasional bacuda. Then I saw it. All week, you would hear the guide just say, "Bubbles," and point to the middle of the lake. You'd search and search looking for big boils on the surface, but it was never there. But if you really looked, you'd see the slightest disturbance on the water's surface. It was extremely reminiscent to when you see a tiny school of white baits just bubbling on the surface, but it wasn't any type of bait that we're looking at. It was fry peacock bass, and underneath them, a guaranteed pair of giants protecting their young.
Big.
Oh! Oh! Oh my God, just get it, just get it.
It's 11 in the morning. The sun is really starting to beat down on us. The wind is dead. The water is glass. Now, not always the most enjoyable fishing conditions, but perfect conditions for big peacock bass. We're cruising down the middle of the lake. It's an offshoot of the Urabashi. And to my left, the surface is just slightly bubbling. I put a cast right behind the fry and pull it through. All of a sudden, an enormous head wake rises from behind my lure. Never a splash or any tremendous blow up. My lure was just gone. I go to twitch again and I met with a solid wall. My lure had been engulfed into the mouth of a giant fish. Now, I really wish the story continued with me fighting this enormous fish for 20 minutes and it was touch and go, but through all the odds we landed him, but that's not what happened. Once I hooked this fish, it dove and ran about 5 yards and swam right up to the boat. We all thought, maybe we really overestimated the size of this fish. And then all of a sudden it dives underneath the boat another few yards. And I crank down, and start pulling the fish right back up to the surface. This enormous head crests the surface of the water, and we all look at the fish in disbelief, thinking, this fish is easily over 20 pounds. But why isn't he fighting? Louie, our guide, pinched the boga grips around the fish's mouth, lifted him out of the water, and it all became very clear. You know, the fish at some point in its life really was an absolute giant. On the boga grip, he weighed 15 pounds, and we measured him, and he was only 1.5 inches shorter than the current world record is, but nearly half the weight. It was an old fish. To be honest, that was halfway dead, protecting what will probably be the last school of fry he'll get to sire in his lifetime. Now, part of me wishes that I would have gotten to catch a big healthy fish in his prime that fought for 10 minutes and just would never give up, and every moment of the fight teetering back and forth for who's in control, like the stories that all my companions on the boat were sharing with me throughout the whole entire week. But instead of a young brute, I caught an old, beaten down warrior who gave his all to his young, to the river, and to me. The rest of the day, Scott and I were just in total elation. We'd accomplished the goal of 15-pounder. The expectation that we'd set before we even started the trip had been met. A fish 15 pounds or more. We spent the rest of the day just goofing off, purposely snagging each other's line, throwing stupid lures, and just celebrating the week and cracking a few beers. We'd caught the 15-pounder. But this wasn't our last chance for a giant fish, because we still had one more session left this trip the following morning. Hey, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's a bit different than what I normally do, but my goal with these Amazon videos was that I wanted to make every single video a different editing style. So the first one was like really long, lots of B-roll. The second one was just hard-hitting action. The third one was doing kind of a unique challenge, and this one more of a video essay, something that I've actually never done before. But if you guys enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like, leave some feedback on what you guys thought, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We got one more video coming from the Amazon series, and it's back home to good old saltwater Florida content. I appreciate you guys very much. Until next video, peace.